think about the last film or show that really stayed with you. The actors, the setting, the city. At any point while watching it, did you think, wait, was AI used here? No, of course you didn't. So when people get very worked up about AI in filmmaking, I have to ask, who exactly are we worried about here? Because as viewers, as people who genuinely love movies, most of us care about one thing. Did the story work or not? And that's why this conversation matters more than people think. But not for the reasons people keep shouting about. Recently, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon were on the Joe Rogan podcast. And yes, of course, it was one of those conversations that made you wish you were sitting in a corner quietly, listening, just observing them. Okay, nobody needed to know that. But AI in filmmaking was something they spoke about at length, and it really caught attention, especially Ben Affleck, who honestly sounded almost like he'd switched roles with Matt Damon from Good Will Hunting.
In 2 years, there's going to be no more work. Well, the reason they're saying that is because they need to ascribe a valuation for investment that can warrant the capex spend they're going to make on these data centers, with the argument that, like, oh, as soon as we do the next model, it's going to scale up, it's going to be 3 times as good.
So here's what Ben Affleck is really saying. AI is terrible at originality. It averages everything out. It's fine for filling gaps, not for creating meaning. He doesn't think AI is going to sit down and make great movies on its own. He thinks it'll do what every new technology has always done in Hollywood. Make things cheaper, faster, and less painful. Which means fewer frozen shoots, fewer expensive logistics, and more focus on performance. Not the death of creativity, just a new tool. And if you're wondering whether this is something that's about to happen, nope. It's already happening. Right, left, center. AI isn't being treated like a sci-fi experiment anymore. It's already part of most movie productions today, helping with shots, edits, effects, and workflows. Over 70% of films now use AI at some stage. About 62% of production companies openly say they're using AI tools, which sounds dramatic until you realize how boring most of this use actually is. Editors are using AI inside Premiere and After Effects. Storyboards are getting generated faster. Script breakdowns and schedules that used to take days now take hours. VFX masking, dialogue cleanup, all the tedious tasks. Now, to be fair, there's real pushback from filmmakers. Directors like James Cameron, Richard Linklater, and Martin Scorsese have all expressed discomfort where AI could take cinema. And honestly, I get why. Their fear isn't really about tools. It's about losing the human core of storytelling, about performance becoming manufactured, about films turning formulaic, about art losing risk. That concern is valid, but it's also not new. Every major shift in filmmaking has triggered the same anxiety. But here's where I think the industry conversation disconnects from reality. Because while filmmakers debate tools, audiences are doing something much simpler. They're watching movies. I'm a movie buff and I've realized something. A millennial movie buff talking to another millennial movie buff is very different from a millennial movie buff talking to a Gen Z movie buff. That's a lot of movie buffs. But in none of those conversations does anyone ever ask, hey, did you know they used AI in that movie? That's just not how people experience films. For an end consumer, it always comes down to the same thing. Did the story work? Did I connect with it? Any augmentation, any tool that genuinely improves the movie experience is only good for the audience. Now, the hardest question in all of this is jobs. Are filmmakers, editors, artists going to lose work? I think that fear exists, but it's also exaggerated. Because if you actually look at where AI is being used, it's mostly in places that were already tedious, time-consuming, and resource-heavy. And that often sets creators free, giving them more time to focus on what actually matters. And here's a real-world example of that. At Sundance this year, Google DeepMind premiered an animated short called Dear Upstairs Neighbors. This wasn't an AI wrote a movie by itself. Veteran animators worked side by side with DeepMind researchers. They trained the AI on custom art, guided motion and style, and used it to turn rough ideas into polished visuals, while staying in creative control the whole time. The film was showcased at Sundance's Story Forum, a space dedicated to artist-driven innovation. Which tells you something very important. What we're seeing isn't AI replacing creatives. It's becoming another tool in the filmmaker's toolbox, even on one of the biggest stages for independent cinema. So yeah, this whole AI in filmmaking, yay or nay, should we do it, should we not conversation? I honestly don't find that very useful. I think the more interesting question is, how do we actually use it? Because we already know what AI can't do. It can't replace an actor's nuance. It can't replace presence. It can't replace that thing an actor brings on screen. The charm, the personality, the very human stuff. I mean, come on, it's not replacing Matt Damon. But what it can do is to make the overall movie making experience better. And I think that's where the conversation should be. If I ever were heading filmmaking, which I won't be, I wouldn't block AI tools. I'd probably do the opposite. I'd bring in editors, visual artists, filmmakers, give them access to these tools, give them real projects and say, show me how this actually helps. And whatever genuinely improves the process, we use it. Because let's be real, we're not moving towards a world where AI tools just disappear. So you can either fight it or you can shape how it's used. And personally, I think it makes more sense to be a tech optimist here. If these tools are here to stay, we might as well learn how to use them properly. If this episode made you pause, disagree, or rethink something, that's kind of the point. I'm building this channel for conversations around tech, culture, and storytelling that don't fit neatly into yes or no boxes. If that sounds like your thing, you know what to do. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.